Hello and welcome to the Kitchen Conversations podcast. My name is Patrycja Rozwora and I'm the host of this platform where we speak about contemporary art from so-called Eastern Europe. In each episode, you're going to be introduced to one artist or researcher whose visual or activist practice sheds light onto the complex former socialist region with all its histories, cultures, languages, foods, but also traumas and their inevitable contemporary consequences. The podcast is a fully independent platform existing since May 2020. If you enjoy the monthly conversations and want to leave me a motivating feedback, you can now go to buymeacoffee.com/kitchenconversations and show your support by buying me a symbolic coffee. All the needed links you can find in the show notes of this episode. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're enjoying your summer. For those of you living in and around Europe, of course, perhaps listening to this episode in some special holiday scenery. As many of you have heard, 2024 is the year of the 60th edition of the Venice Biennale. The exhibition opened on the 20th of April and is going on till the 24th of November. And it is divided, as usual, into two main locations, the Giardini, so the National Pavilions, and the Arsenale, the big exhibition space. Outside of that, of course, a lot is happening in Venice itself. I have been to the Venice Biennale 2 times before, and I was always very much inspired and amazed, but also overwhelmed by the amount of art in that small, highly overcrowded city. Of course, beautiful and picturesque, yet very intense. This year I have not managed to travel there yet. Perhaps it will still happen. Yet I did manage to connect to some of the amazing artists showing there. Today I'm speaking to Șerban Savu, whose exhibition titled What Work Is, curated by Ciprian Mureșan, is representing Romania at this year's Biennale. It was featured as one of the most inspiring pavilions of this year, and because of that, I'm more than happy to share with you this conversation and perhaps inspire you to travel to Venice and see the work yourself. So welcome, Șerban, to Kitchen Conversations. So you are the artist that this year is representing the Romanian Pavilion. Congratulations, and I'm super happy to speak to you about it. So what are the impressions in general with showing your work there and experiencing the whole Biennale this year?
I used to go to visit Venice Biennale since 2003, when I had a grant there at the Romanian Cultural Institute for 2 years. So obviously, Venice Biennale means a lot for me. Actually, it was the first time I get in touch with contemporary art. For me, it was that moment.
That's huge, yeah.
Yeah, my teacher. My teacher was Venice Biennale. Coming back after 20 years and showing there in the Romanian Pavilion, it means a lot, also on a personal level. And Venice was my home for 2 years. So I feel in a way home there, and even though I never imagined that I will show in Venice Biennale, especially in the pavilion. Usually in the pavilions, in the national pavilions, you can see other types of exhibitions, not necessarily painting. So I never imagined myself showing painting there. I didn't have enough time to visit the exhibition. It was so hectic, so crazy, and I was very busy all those days. But I will come back to Venice a few times more until the end of the Biennale. So I will have enough time to see everything I wanted to.
Even as a visitor, sometimes it's very difficult to see everything. So as a artist who shows their work, I can only imagine. For those who don't know you yet, you already mentioned you show your paintings there, so I assume one of your practices is painting, but can you briefly introduce yourself, who you are and what you do as an artist?
I'm an artist from Cluj, Romania. I work mainly in painting as a medium, as my main medium, but I also in mosaic sometimes because it's very time consuming. I love this technique, but it's quite complicated to do it. And this year at the Venice Biennale, besides paintings, I show also some architectural models, and they include also mosaics, those buildings, let's say. It's a new direction in my practice, let's say, in the last 3-4 years. I've done one video.
All right.
During my artistic practice, back in 2009. Yeah.
So some time ago already. If one enters the Romanian Pavilion this year and sees your work, I think the first thing that comes in mind is the topics of pause, of inactivity, of leisure perhaps. And then also you mentioned mosaic as one of the mediums. So those two somehow definitely connect to a type of art that we saw in the past, the propaganda art of the Soviet Union or like the former Eastern Bloc as well, that Romania was part of. Of course, my first question here would be, is that a direct inspiration for your work today?
Definitely. In the mid-2000s, somehow in a very intuitive way, I started to look around me. After I came back from Venice, from two years grant from Venice, I came back in Cluj and started to look at the surroundings with a different eyes, be able to compare two cultures, to landscapes, to sides of history, let's say. Somehow in an intuitive way I looked at people at work. I just wanted to learn what happened between changing of one system to another. That was my point, actually, to look at the history of art and a recent history of art, and to take the main themes of it and to work on those themes, just to understand history and to understand who we are as a society in that moment. I started a long journey of almost 20 years I wanted to see the truth actually behind the propaganda, because we all know that the public art during those days, socialist realism, which is not at all realism actually. It's an art that doesn't present the reality, but rather an utopia.
An idea of it, right?
An idea, the ideal of that society. Somehow I wanted to extract those propagandistic attitudes from the workers, and I reconsider also the leisure, which is not at all present in the public art. And I introduced the leisure in my paintings. I focused on anonymous workers with small format paintings in the very beginning. Real situation, real life. And in this way I tried to understand the difference between ideal and real.
You said you observed workers. What kind of workers did you observe?
Construction, mainly, because it's the most visible. They are the most visible in a city, in an urban area, but also in the agriculture field or in the bakery industry, for example. What I could see from the outside, let's say. And then when I used to have a studio at the former brush factory in Cluj, and the studio was at the 3rd floor, which was quite high, I could observe the whole neighborhood. It was a neighborhood full of, let's say, the former proletariat was living in those houses, because it was a neighborhood of houses. I followed their way of life and their transformations, and it was a project, actually 7-year project, following those people, and thus appeared a large part of my creation in the last years.
And you said you kept it anonymous, so I assume you were just an observer. You didn't interact with them, or you didn't do interviews with them or take photographs of those people.
Exactly. No. They don't know they are part of my paintings.
Would they recognize themselves in your paintings, or
rather they are anonymous? They are with small figures. With you can, or turned with their back, you cannot see really their portrait. But some of them, yes. And at some point I asked one of the workers at the factory, at the former brush factory, to pose for me. And he was very, very happy with the result, but it was a rare case for my work.
Kind of going deeper into that, why does it interest you to kind of capture the moment of their pause from work rather than showing their work? That, of course, is important for the growing of the society, right? But the pause is something that we don't often maybe capture. But
we don't consider it. we don't consider it actually, and it's not a thing that you can make a bravade of. It's just you need to take your energy from it. Otherwise, it's part of the productive process in a way. But on the other hand, it's totally opposed to the idea of work and the heroic idea of the work. But on the other hand, indeed, it's part of the working process. So I like this idea that pause and rest is important. On the other hand, I'm very attracted by the sleeping people because I find them very vulnerable and innocent. They are innocent because they are not in this world. All their lives is hidden. It's not present. If one can observe them sleeping, it's even more vulnerable. So it was, and it is a subject for my works.
And did the observation of workers, of people at work, but also in their leisure pause time, did it also influence your own artistic practice and your relation to taking rest? As artists, as creators, we work in a different way than people working physically. So I wonder about your thoughts there.
Yeah, my relation with art, it's also in this way very, very serious. I have a very rigorous schedule. I go to the
9
studio
to 5.
Something like that, but 10 to 7 rather.
Okay.
And I need to be in the studio even if I don't work practically. But it's my thinking space. Actually, it's not about me, but it's about Ciprian, my colleague, and the curator of the Romanian Pavilion. Because we are very good friends and we shared the studio for many, many years. Initially at the former brush factory, we had 2 studios next to each other. When we moved out from there 8 years ago, we rented a single studio and we shared it for already 8 years indeed. And I have a couch in my room where I paint, and he likes to lay on the couch and to take a nap from time to time. I feel very comfortable in a way when he takes this nap because I have to be focused. I don't want to wake him up. I can focus very well on my painting. But on the other hand, I take documentary photos, and I have hundreds of photos with him sleeping on my couch.
That's great.
So
that's a really nice anecdote, kind of coming into your practice as well. This year's theme of the Biennale is foreigners everywhere. And of course, probably people wonder, how does the work relate to this topic, the theme of the Biennale, and in general to the broader societal changes and crises of today? Actually,
because my characters in the paintings, they are drifting away from one system to another, carried by the course of history in a way. They are not at the wheel, actually. They are taken over by the stream of history. They are alienated in between this transition. You know what happened in Poland? It was the same. Now I'm reading a book written by Lea Ipi, maybe you know, an Albanian theorist. It's a sort of biography of her, with her experience during communist times and the post-communist transition in Albania. And it's very similar with what happened in Romania, and I assume in all the Eastern Bloc. And those characters somehow, they are lost in a way. and they feel alienated in this transition, and in this political chaos and hectic movement, and of course the idea of work implicates the migration, and it's part of it. Migration is part of the process of work. It's always complicated with the national pavilions, because the theme of the Biennale, it's announced probably less than 1 year before the opening. The national pavilions are not necessarily related to the main theme of the Biennale. When together with Ciprian, the curator, when we started to think about applying at the national context, the theme of the Biennale wasn't announced, of course.
Yeah, interesting way to have the theme in general, and I wonder if, what's the reason for it? But that's, of course, another conversation. But I think probably with contemporary art, you can always somehow attach it to the theme.
Usually they are very broad, very large themes. So also the theme I approached, it's a very vast one. So at some point, of course, it connects with the theme proposed by Adriano Pedrosa.
Coming back to Romania and the Romanian society, since of course you live there and you work there, I want to take the opportunity to ask you, because you were saying that in your work you show the people who kind of are lost or like are in between those two systems. Yet of course the transition happened more than 30 years ago. We know that in each country developed in a different way, in some countries quite tragically. How is it in Romania? How do for example, generations approach it? The people who like your age or older than you, how does it feel to them to live in Romania today?
It was complicated in Romania because it lasted a lot. The first 6 years, actually, it wasn't at all any transition. Because the former communists took the power and they didn't do anything. They were ex-KGB agents. Actually, it was worse and worse and worse. They realized that they cannot run the country in this way, and finally they accepted the head of the West, let's say. But they lost the election in 1996, and the next government, which was invested with a lot of trust by the population, they didn't succeed to do anything they promised. They were not capable to do it. They were not professionals, actually. After 4 years, they lost the power, and the former ones came back. So it was very complicated. The first 15 years, it was back and forth.
Back and forth.
And somehow, by the force of history, let's say it, we were dragged into this European stream of making politics. And now let's say it's like everywhere, a little bit like everywhere. So, but it lasted quite a lot, and until joining European Union, it was kind of difficult moments for the population.
And the people, characters you show in your paintings, are those people, can you kind of set them in a certain time of the Romanian history, or are this just
Not necessarily. Now, that kind of character, you cannot see it quite often. But until 10 years ago, you could have seen this character more often.
And you mentioned that your studio was before in the brush factory. Was it an abandoned brush factory or still running?
It closed its activity in 2008 because of the crisis, economical crisis. And the art scene in Cluj just rent the space. We had to invest quite a lot of time and energy and some money, of course, to be able to use it. But it was a beautiful place, an utopian place for the art scene in Cluj. Yeah, but in the end, of course, the owner had to renovate it.
I can already imagine what happened.
Yeah, we were kicked out after 10 years, almost. Yeah.
Well, at least you got the nice 10 years.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was indeed quite an experience to have the studio there and to share your experience with younger generations, and because we were the oldest ones I remember we had discussions every day about art, and it was like a free academy in a way. It was a very, very free spirit in the factory back then.
And coming back to the Romanian Pavilion, you already mentioned that you created it together with the curator, Ciprian Mureșan, who is your colleague, your studio mate, also an artist, and interestingly enough showed also his work in the Romanian Pavilion at the 53rd Biennale.
Yes.
How was it to work together with a colleague artist, but also someone who actually have been there and done that?
Yeah, I was very confident because of his previous experience with the Romanian Pavilion. And he was also part of the 57th edition at the in the curatorial exhibition.
All right.
So he has many Venice appearances. Yeah, with him it was very easy and fun, and I felt protected in a way. He knows me very well, and I know him very well, of course. It was that easy to construct the show, to conceive it, to accumulate the ideas and to generate new ideas. It was very natural, very fun. That was the easiest and the funniest part of the whole project.
That's cool. And I guess I would have to ask him, but I can imagine you can also tell me something about it. How did you construct the show in terms of curation? What did you want people to feel in the space? Thinking about how you hang the works and how you put them in the space. Could you tell something about that?
Well, we didn't want to move very far from my practice, actually. We wanted to present my work as it is. And in 2014, I've done my first polyptych, which was called the Polyptych of Work and Leisure. So it wasn't a new idea, but this time it's expressed at a different scale, with a different power. Ciprian said, indeed, he proposed me to show it like a huge polyptych, because also the religion is an important theme in my work, and I always compared religion and ideology. After 1989, when the society in Romania lost ideology, they recovered religion to replace ideology. Also back then before 1989, ideology acted like religion in this society. It acts like a religious polyptych. Now it's like an altarpiece in a way, but with like theme and like compositions. Ciprian looked in my recent practice, and he said, "I like a lot your models with mosaic, and this is a direction we need to present in Venice too." Along the painting, and he provoked me to create new works for Venice in this direction. Yeah, it was a dialogue. We have this dialogue every day at the coffee in our studio, very relaxed but we didn't want to show something which is not me. So that was the point, to show something real there.
That's so wonderful to hear that the curator actually listened to what the artist has to say and accommodated that and had a dialogue with that. I feel often case it goes a bit other way, but that's great. And I'm convinced that people will also feel that when being in the space. And on the facade of the Romanian Pavilion, there's another work, Atelier Brenda, that is a collective that created a work in conversation with the work that is inside. I'm curious how the conversation went there, and why did you decide to also show their work on?
Because Ciprian, he's very, very versatile in working with different mediums. He works so easy and he can change from one medium to another, like from photography to engraving, from video to painting or sculpture to, I don't know. He works in every possible mediums. He thought of inviting this Atelier Brenda, which is a graphic design studio based in Brussels. Ciprian thought of inviting them to expose and to show to express these ideas, which are in my paintings, but in a different language, on a different scale, to be more direct, because this theme of work and leisure was mainly of work, was expressed during the socialists usually used typography as a main medium of expressing the ideas, right?
Communicating, yes.
Exactly. So he thought of using the medium of graphic design as immediate expression of those ideas in the paintings. They've done this intervention on the facade with cement, and it's written labor, leisure with fallen letters. It's like the letters they were fallen down from a former edifice or former building, in order to renew those concepts, actually, to rethink the balance between work and leisure. That was the idea. And they also have, in the lobby of the pavilion, as you enter, there is a small coin installed in a glass, like a portal. You have to go through. Actually, it's a glass, you have to go on the sides, but you can see the whole exhibition through that glass and watching the coin. Because usually in an original coin, you have on one side it's the state who emits those coins, the power of the state, and the other side it's the value. And they invested this coin with different values, not necessarily with the idea of the money, of the wealth, but the idea of working as a value, not as wealth.
Very nice that different collective also working in a different area, in a different country, kind of responds to your work and is in the Romanian pavilion. I find it nice when it kind of goes out of the pavilions and their national artists. And
identity. Yeah.
Totally. And you said that you spent some time, of course, in Venice, but you're coming back. And one of the reasons is to see the other works, of course. But also because outside of presenting your work, you're also having a more interactive intervention in the city of Venice. Can you tell something more about that?
Besides the main venue, which is the Romanian Pavilion in Giardini, we have another venue we have to use for the Romanian participation. Small gallery at the Romanian Cultural Institute in Venice. It's in between Ferrovia and Rialto, in the middle, on the Strada Nova. It's the main street, at the street level. And it's a tiny space. And we thought of creating a very large mosaic, transforming into a productive space. Like you can see, even now in Venice, you can see some shops, some workshops of doing glass. Or,
they make the glass there,
even, yeah, or even mosaic in Murano if you go. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to deal with the history of Venice as well, and the history of mosaic. And because mosaic is one of my interests, of course, part of the main pavilion, we wanted to extend this idea. I had this idea actually to create a large mosaic for a block of flats 15 years ago or so, but I couldn't find enough money back then to realize it. And now it was like a perfect match for doing this kind of project. And it's a performative project which started at the opening of the Biennale, and it will end in 24th of November. Hopefully the teams of mosaic artists will finish the large mosaic, which will be 4 on 5 meters. They will enlarge one of the mosaics presented in the pavilion. So they have a model there I created, and the drawings, of course. But in the same time, they are free to express their mastery in mosaic art. Some of the artists, they come from Republic of Moldova, and they have a large tradition in the mosaic art, and they still have many mosaics in the public art spaces. Yeah, in the public spaces. And I was inspired by some of them, and I introduced them in my paintings as well. So it's and at the end of the Biennale, when we will finish the mosaic, we would like to donate this mosaic to the city of Chișinău, in a way to close a circle. We took something from there. With also people, they work in Venice for 7 months, and we would like to give the city something back.
So, as I understand, you have different artists working there, and the public, the people who come to see the Biennale, they can come and see people.
Yes, yeah. There are 16 mosaic artists, and they work in shifts of 2, teacher and student mainly. Almost half of them are from the Republic of Moldova, and the rest are from Iași, another city in Romania, which has this tradition in mosaic. And 4 of them are from Cluj.
And a very technical question: how do you create a mosaic in a space that then has to be brought to Moldova and installed somewhere else?
On pieces. We split this large mosaic in pieces. Yeah.
After the Biennale, it will go back and be installed in public space, I guess.
Hopefully, yes. This is the plan.
Since I haven't been at the Biennale and you have, you said you were busy and didn't see everything, but I still thought maybe you have one tip apart from the Romanian Pavilion and the mosaic workshop that is worth seeing.
The Polish Pavilion, because they are our neighbors and friends, and they have a very strong pavilion. I like it.
Open group Polish Pavilion.
Yeah.
Great. And for the very, very end, I always finalize by talking about food, which might feel a bit disconnected to what we just talked about, but perhaps also not, because you did observe some bakers. But yeah, the podcast is called Kitchen Conversations, and of course food is something that connects us and also connects the countries that were once under the Soviet rule. We do share similar foods because of what was accessible in these times, but also the cuisines are very different at times, and that's why I always ask, what is your favorite food from home?
Well, it's hard to have a favorite food from home because I'm vegan, and Romania it has this traditional Eastern European and Central European as well tradition of cooking, so I don't find myself
meat heavy.
Yeah. On the other hand, there are some dishes, vegan dishes, delicious that I love. They are not very popular. They are still popular, but not extremely popular. You would never see those dishes in restaurants, but in the house of the you can find those dishes at the grandma So one of them is ciorba. Maybe you know what ciorba is. It's a soup, sour soup. With loboda, it's a plant with leaves which turns pink or reddish in the soup. When you boil it, it turns red. It's a very beautiful soup. And of course, a dish made out of stinging nettles, which is also, delicious. Very, very good. That plant that stings. If you touch it,
yes.
Pokrzywa.
I know that.
If you touch it, So this is the plant. It's far away better than spinach. It cannot compare it. It's a much better spinach. Let's say it like this.
And spinach is like the healthiest thing to eat, right? So.
I don't know. It's good, but not that tasty like the stinging nettles.
Do you have to then boil the leaves?
Yeah. You cook the leaves. Yeah.
You cook the leaves and you eat it like warm as an addition to something.
Warm or also cold. I like it cold. I don't know why, but usually you eat it warm. Yeah.
Wow, that's something
with
new.
nothing. With nothing, just like that, plain.
Just salt, maybe.
Yeah. Salt, of course. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
And
so
olive
much.
Olive oil, which is not from Romania, of course, but it's always welcome in the food. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Șerban, for the great conversation.
Thank you for this interview and discussion. Actually, it was really nice talking to you and meeting you. And let's meet again somewhere in this world, because the art world is quite small.
And this was it for today. Thank you for reaching till the end of this episode. The next one is coming in 4 weeks, always on Monday. Please follow the podcast and leave a rating. I'm also happy to hear your feedback, so feel free to write me via Instagram or by email. All the needed info you will find in the show notes of this episode. In the meantime, take good care and we hear each other soon.